Final quarter of OMG. Final quarter. Home stretch. It's been 9, I feel, powerful, impacting months. In particular, last month. And why last month would be so powerful is because, well, last month was about meaning and purpose. And when you get to the realization of meaning and purpose, it kind of leaves your ego doing backflips. Because there's no more floor to stand on, there's no more walls, there's no more ceiling. That's what it feels like. Because your reality, when you have placed meaning and purpose into the floors and walls, if you like, has walls. You know, you have some kind of walls, you have openings in the walls, that's cool. You have a ceiling, but you have opening in the ceilings somewhere, you know. Some of us have glass ceilings and we see infinitely, but there's still a ceiling. We see infinitely out there. I watched the movie last night, Gravity. Awesome movie. Anyone seen that? If you watch it in 3D. It's got Sandra Bullock and George Clooney. And it's just awesome. They're just in space and you're just watching this thing in 3D and it's just space, and one of them gets disconnected and they're just floating in space. No direction, just infinite ceilings, infinite walls, infinite floors. Just, there's no floors, there's no walls, there's no ceilings. And if you can watch that movie, it kind of feels like that. When you really digest that month, last month, of meaning and purpose, at first you feel like you're just getting lost in space. No direction, you're floating in infinite space. So the direction you're going is infinite. It doesn't matter which direction you go, it's just infinite space. So if you see that movie, you'll see that scene where, I won't ruin the film, but someone gets disconnected and they're just floating away. And they've got no direction, they're just floating. At first, you're really scared, afraid. And that's what I mean by the ego's doing backflips. It's like the monkeys, you see the monkeys? They're doing backflips. You know, doing backflips. Why are they doing backflips? Because it's like, where did the floor go? Where did my ceiling go? Even though I was infinite or had an idea that I'm infinite, I still had glass. I could still touch my ceiling. Yes, I can see infinitely, but it's like, you know, those buildings you go and they've got the skywalks. A lot of countries, they do that in the tallest buildings, you know, for tourists. They get you to go walk to the edge. They do that in Melbourne. They got one of those in Melbourne. And you walk to the edge and the bottom is just glass. And you can see underneath you, right? Now that, at first you're like, oh, all that space, right? Because you can see like 100 floors down. But you know at least there's glass there. You can walk on top of the glass. And that's where a lot of you may be at up to last month. We've been wiping the walls clean, wiping the ceilings clean for the last 8 months, 9 months, wiping the floors clean until you wipe and realize, oh, it's glass. And you all begin to see infinitely around you and have that sense of the infiniteness, but you're still safe in the boundary of the glass. You feel comfortable now to walk the edge of the building that has the glass floor and look 100 floors down. You feel comfortable about that now. You have a sense of comfort within who you are. You have a sense of comfort of the infiniteness around you. But you still know that glass is there. You're not going to walk through the glass. You can see, but you're still not going to go there. You see, that's one of the first stages of, you know, experiencing yourself infinitely. You're experiencing yourself infinitely, but there is this safety of your cocoon. There is this safety of this glass box. You're no longer in the box. You've now wiped the box clean, removed all the dust, and you're now in a crystal clear box that you can see infinitely around you, but you have this glass there, so it still builds your parameter or your limitations. Yes? Everyone with me? And if you're not at that stage, you'll understand when you're at that stage, that little metaphor. But last month, we began to even take or remove the glass and create little holes in the glass that you could actually walk through or fall through. Last month, if you truly grasp last month, and it is worth listening or watching again about last month, meaning and purpose. If you truly grasp last month, throughout your month or throughout the day of OMG, your ego would have been doing backflips. Where's the walls? Where's the ceiling? Where's the floor? Where's the floor? It would be doing backflips. Because suddenly it's floating in a sea of infinite space. And if you truly grasp last month, really putting meaning into something or finding purpose in something was really another form of, when you put meaning into something, it was a form of what? Judgment. Who said that? Dico. Judgment. It's just another form of judgment. So you grasp that at a deeper level. Who wasn't here last month? Okay. Well, I'm going to speak as though you were. You can catch up on last month in your own time. So it was a very, very profound month. And this month, we're going to pick up where we left off last month and speak about the will. Will and willing. The will. And, you know, we've spoken about this word will. You know, how many times have you heard me say you got to be willing? You're required to. You know, I always say you don't lack money. You always say you lack space, or you lack will. You lack capacity, courage, will. Tomorrow I'm going to be doing an intuitive warrior talk just next door. Anyone coming to that, by the way? Okay, a couple of you. I'm going to be doing the intuitive warrior talk next door, and one of the biggest words that I always use is people don't have the will, the capacity, or the courage to follow the intuition. So that word will gets thrown around a lot in the month of manifestation. I spoke about manifestation is willing something. If you go back to month 2, I believe it was, in manifestation, it was all about willing. I say most people are just not willing. They try to will something, but they're not willing. You see, there's a difference. I'm making a differentiation here between the word willing and will. It's very different. They're not willing, so then they try to will it. They're not willing, so then they try to will it. Today's message is very short, sharp, to the point. Short. Make sure you're really here for it. Short, sharp, to the point. This is what I've noticed anyway, as we draw closer to the final months. You got jingle bells on you? Is that you?
Yeah.
Okay. You're going to have to practice being completely still today. That's a great practice. I was going to ask you to take it off, but I thought, nah, I think it's better if you just practice being still. Oh. In Star Wars, was it Yoda? I wasn't really a Star Wars fan, but that one scene is so famous where, was it Yoda? Says, hey?
It's probably Yoda.
Yeah, Yoda. Yeah,
Do or do not.
yeah.
There is no try.
There is no try. Do or do not. Because what's his name? The kid? Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker says, I'll try, or I'm trying. And he goes, there is no try. Do or do not. You cannot try to, okay. Let's start again. You can try to will, but you cannot try willing. You're either willing or you're not. You can't try to be willing. It's like you're either pregnant or you're not. Right? You're either willing or you're not. You can't try to be willing. I can't say, it's not even, it doesn't, I'm trying to be willing. It's like you're either willing or you're not. But most people will try to will it. I'm trying to get you guys to realize the differentiation between these words. And I look for words to dissect so we can look at it in a point of duality, so you can grasp a sense and understanding of it. Because if you can at least have a sense of understanding, you allow yourself to drop and have a direct experience of what I'm actually saying. Yes? I've spoken about this in the month of ego. The ego needs to understand something. It's blocking everything. Everything's not true. No, it's not true. No, it's not true. Right? Unless the ego has a reference point or understands and goes, I can relate to that. I have a reference of that in my life. Therefore, I am open to that. And the moment you become open to it, you have a direct experience of what's being said. You cannot understand the truth, but the understanding opens you. Because the moment you understood the truth, that's not the truth, that's the version of the truth. Going back to WTF. If you look at the WTF program, the experience that I give to people, the experience is given by me just giving metaphors or movie clips so that people's egos can go, ah, I relate to that. That's happened to me in my life before. References. Just building references. The references open people up. So to put this in your hand right now, it's either you're willing or you're not. But I need to dissect that word and make it into two in order for us to have another reference point of what it looks like when you're not willing, but you're trying to will. So we use the word will. You have willing and you have will. So my first question to you is, what is the difference to try to will something versus to be willing. Hang on a sec. Microphones. Remember, we're recording. Questions, put your hands up first. And just keep it on your chin when you're speaking. Yes.
I feel when I will, my ego knows what I need. Therefore, it's guiding me to do this.
Okay.
When I'm willing,
Yep.
I'm letting go of not knowing.
Letting go of what?
Not knowing.
Okay.
And I remain open to the possibilities.
Okay. This is good. I want you to listen to the words that we get, and then we can tie them all together. So to be willing, you said, or to try to will, you said, it is your ego trying to will what it thinks it's best for you, right? And, or from what it thinks it knows, I think it was the words that you said. And to be willing is when you're letting go and you're okay, or coming from the unknown, okay? See, there's a sense of knowing in the unknown. Like many times you've heard me say, there's a sense of certainty in the uncertain. And that's where someone goes, I have a knowing. And then if you say, well, how do you know? They go, I don't know. Because they don't know, there's no knowing because it's uncertain. But they have a feeling of a knowing in that uncertainty. A feeling of knowing in the unknown. Can you see why people can lose themselves a little bit on the way to grasping what I'm actually saying? Okay, thank you. Let's see what other reference points we can have. What is the difference between to will, and I've kind of already put it out there for you, it's in the space, just pick it up and digest it and speak about it. What is the difference between willing and to will? Rach? You got mic on? Yeah.
I feel like if I'm willing something, or to will, is it's already out there, like I'm looking for it in the external world. But when I'm willing it, it's coming through me. Okay,
so there's another reference point. So to will it, it has to do with, let's call it, she called it external world. I'm just going to use the word form. Okay, it is to do with form. To the willing, another reference point, it is coming through you. All right, keep going until we drop deeper and I get the answer, the deepest answer we can have. Who's got their hands up? Okay.
I think when you're trying to will something, it's trying to make something happen, and willing is allowing, so it's more flowing, allowing things.
Awesome. Okay, now we're dropping in. So let me just see if I got this right. All right, guys, listen to all the answers because it's like a little spaghetti. You know, you put the spaghetti in the wire, you make a little necklace when you're a kid. Every little piece is part of the necklace. So I don't know why that came to me, but that's the picture that came to me. So to try to will, all right, or to will is to make it happen, you said? So make it happen. And then you said willing is coming from, you use the word allowing, all right? So let me add a little bit to that, all right? So we can just continue to drop deeper. So to will something is to use a force, okay? Right? Force has to do with form or external world, as Rachel put it, or physical, all right? Force, right? A force, right? Any type of force, right? Every force has to do with form. That's why they say in the physical, one of the things in physics they say is that physics, every action has an equal and opposite reaction, okay? Because it's coming from form. So every action towards form or from form causes an equal and opposite reaction. Equal because it's balanced. So if I push against my hand or push against the wall, I'm going to get an equal and opposite force back. So force is something that is related to the physical or to form. Yes? Here's another little clue. Hence the word, you can't force it. Okay? So when you're trying to, you use the word make it happen. When you're trying to force it, right, you're trying to use your forces. So when you're trying to force something, you're forcing it into an equal and opposite force back. That's why they say resistance. What is it? Whatever you resist persists. That's where that comes from, right? Because you're using your forces. You see, willing, you use the word willing, is allowing, right? Now here's the thing, allowing is not a force. Allowing is not a force. Love is not a force. The love that is related to form, yes, love is a force. And love is here to fight the fear and to beat the darkness, because that love has an opposite force. The light has the darkness. But the nothingness of the emptiness of space, of the emptiness of infinity, doesn't have an opposite. The form that has an opposite is taking place amongst the emptiness. It is part of the emptiness. So the love that's from form and the fear that's from form, the light that's from form and the darkness that's from form, is all taking place in the emptiness. But in the emptiness, in infinity, it doesn't have an opposite. We've spoken about this every month. Why does infinite not have an opposite? Because it's no longer infinite. Because if it has an opposite, it means it has a beginning and it has an end. So therefore it's not infinite. So something that's infinite, which I keep describing as space, and I've mentioned this to you before, it's not just the space that you see in the universe. That's just a reference or a reflection of the space that I'm talking about. Because the space that I'm talking about is the nothingness. That's infinity, because the space that we see, like if you go watch that movie Gravity, the space that you see in the universe, you may assume is infinite, but what do we know? What do scientists described as the universe? They said the universe is expanding. Who's heard that before? Well, that's not the space that I'm talking about, because the space that I'm talking about is expanded. It's not expanding. Something that's infinite cannot be expanding. Why not? Because it's everything. Because if you're saying it is expanding, it means it has a parameter. It has a beginning and end. And it may be so expanded, and you think, well, that's infinite. No, that's just a reflection of our consciousness expanding. As a collective, we are expanding our consciousness. Therefore, that is a reflection that we experience in our physical world, and the space in the universe is expanding. We are expanding. That's just a reflection. So I just wanted to make that point clear. All right? That is also part of the physical. So great point, right? One is forced. So I'm going to use the word forced, make it happen, whatever you want to call it. One is forced, one is allowed. Okay, now this is really difficult to distinguish, this other part. Allowed. Okay, this is what I really want to distinguish, because you know the force part really well. But I say over here, in the physical, force comes from form. But from the formless, there's no force. There's no forces. No, there's no force and no there's no forces. I'll come to you in a sec. So then, okay, well, what else is there? You know, it's the same conversation we kind of talk about where we go, in the nothingness is everything. But at first when I say over here is nothing, you're like, why would I be interested in nothing? But when you can relate or have a reference point, within that nothingness, I felt everything. I felt freedom. Suddenly you're beginning to have a knowing. I'm going to throw one more word to what you just said. So I threw the word force, okay? You will also notice that when you are forcing something, or because sometimes you're thinking to yourself, I'm not forcing it, but when you're using your forces, you're forcing it, okay? Now, what are your forces? Strategizing, like you thinking, planning. I'm not talking about the plan unfolding through you or allowing the plan to unfold. It's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you sitting there and making a plan. You're manipulating the form. You're manipulating the form. That is you using your forces. You using your force of love. That's human-made love. That's you forcing it. In other words, when I talk about in the WTF, you are forcing someone to love you, right? By you being loving, and you're looking for them to love you back. You see, you're using your forces of love to gain love. That's still forcing. So I think forcing has got a new meaning to it. I'm hoping that you can see. You're still forcing, because most people will go to me, well, I'm not forcing anything. I'm not forcing. But if you're using any of those forces that come from form, you are forcing. So let me throw another word in here. Motivation. How are we going? Did it just get warm in here, or it did, didn't it? Rach, can you see if you can tell them to turn the aircon back on, please? I think they just turned it onto the heat. No? It was just turned off. Yeah. Oh, it just turned off. Yeah. Okay, can you, please turn it back on. Hey? Well, I'm sorry, I'm already seeing some of you going, the hot flush from the topic. Motivation. Let's use this word. Let me play with this word for a sec. All right? When someone needs motivation, they are, again, attempting to will something. All right? If you haven't already started to associate this to last month, I'll start dropping some associations. When you're trying to will something, it's because you've placed meaning into something. So therefore, you try to will it. You can't be willing, right? You can't sense the willingness if you've placed meaning in the form. Okay, I'll let you have your own little realizations of that throughout today and throughout your month. It's linked. We spoke about meaning and purpose, all right? Where is trying to will come from? It's linked to the meaning and purpose you put on something. But let's go back to this word motivation, all right? When you need to be motivated, thanks Rachel, when you need to be motivated, all right, you're using your forces, right? Some people think, well, I'm motivated, right? But right there, you are forcing. Because willingness does not come from motivation. Willingness comes from inspiration. Now, what's the difference between these two words? You've got to really start to grasp it. What's the difference between motivation and inspiration? Well, have a look at it. Inspiration. Rachel said before, when you're willing, it is coming from within out, if you like we've described in many months. When you are inspired, it's coming from in, an inspiration. Okay? Let's look at the word motivation. Motivation. I have a motive. What's another word for motive? No, agenda. Another word for motive is an agenda. And where is the agenda coming from? From form. So when I said to you guys that when you're playing with form, when I played with this word forcing, because when I said you're forcing it, many people in their lives, they think, well, I'm not forcing right now. You've had reference, forcing it means like making it happen, right? But just even using motivation, you think to yourself, well, I'm highly motivated right now. I'm not forcing it to happen. I'm motivated. That's different to me. Motivated. Motivated. Can you see what I'm saying? Right there, you're using a force called motivation. That's a force. If you're using any force, that's called forcing. And another word for forcing is to will. I am here to will this. Yes, microphone please. She's been busting.
Well, you've used the word will.
Yes.
I think maybe in the manifestation day.
Yep.
But you say, you go up on stage, you clear the space, and then you will it.
Yes.
But in that sense, it feels like you're saying you allow it to come through you, not forcing it to come through you.
Absolutely. And that's why I
So
said...
that's the opposite to what you're saying now.
Absolutely. So that's why I'm saying this month I need to dissect this word, because for me, I'll come to you in a sec. For me, whenever I've spoken to will and to willing has been the same thing for me.
Yes.
Right?
Before.
Always and I always say you need to will it.
Yeah.
Right? So it's such a strong word that has continuously come out in OMG that in last month's OMG, when I was doing the final OMG in LA, it came up again. And it came up and I was like, okay, that's what next month is about. It's about will. So when I started doing this month in Melbourne, the first OMG I did, the first thing I did with the Melbourne group is like, well, we need to have two words. You know, it's like, I'll come back to what it's like, all right? But we need to have two words. So I need to dissect this word and make two, so we can have a reference point of the other or a reference point of the opposite. Because the truth is there's just willing, right? So willing and will are used as the same reference point. So when it comes to the month of will right now, I need to dissect that. So that's why I said I'm going to dissect it into will and willing, right? Don't get too caught up in the words. I'm just using the dissection or the two words to give you a reference point for you to go, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, right?
When you're on stage and you will, you're not forcing it.
No, I'm not.
Meaning you're allowing it to flow through you.
Absolutely, which is the word willing.
It's really hard with the two words to separate them.
Well, that's why I want to make it clear before we move on.
In some instances, it does. When you said I will it, I took that as I allow it. But in some cases, you will it could feel I'm trying to force it, but you're not forcing it through you. You're allowing it.
Yep.
It's
So
just a pointer.
yeah,
it's hard.
you're dropping, and it'll become more clearer as we distinguish and identify these two words. Yep. Thank you, Elizabeth, and then we'll move over.
For me, it has to do, willing has to do with the way you're being
Yeah.
and really being open. I just thought of, I can't think of your sister's name right now. Sorry.
Who?
Gaz.
Guys.
But she's always saying, stay open, stay open, stay open, and allowing.
Yeah.
So for me, it's about being, and then the will is all about the doing,
Yeah.
the external.
Okay, very good point. So the will is about the doing. So here's the thing. The will is about taking action. All right, to will something, it is to take action. Now, what is taking action? Action is to do with the force. Now, there's a difference when you are willing and there is an action coming from you or through you, the better word. You see? How do you know if it's an action or if it's an action coming through you? The action, you already know you're going to take it. Very simple. If I know I'm going to take this action, like, it's so difficult to put into words, but I'm hoping you can have a reference point. When I'm up, hang on one sec. If I'm on stage, if I know what I'm going to say, that's what I mean by I know what action. When I come and sit here, I didn't know I was going to say what I'm saying to you right now. Can you see what I'm saying? It's just, you know, I have this idea that I want to talk about will, but I didn't know how I was going to start. And I don't care how I was going to start because I want it to come from my willingness rather than from my will. So the will is more related to action.
So one action is with agenda and preparation, whereas to me the other action is just inspiration, and it just comes out. And sometimes you don't even remember what you've said.
Absolutely.
Because it's just come out.
So one action has a motive.
That's it.
So motive, another word for agenda. Okay? So it's the same as when I say I don't plan, but there's a plan unfolding through me. So I notice the plan as it shows up in the moment. I notice it. I just noticing this is what's happening. That's when you're allowing something because you're noticing this is what is happening. You're noticing this is what I'm experiencing. Is what you're experiencing who you are? No, it's how I'm experiencing who I am. And you go, this is my experience, and most people think their experience is who they are. No, who you are is experiencing it that way. Oh, boom, you're like boom, that's what I was going to say. Here comes the boom, here comes the boom. I watched that movie last night.
Yeah, I think one is human will. One is very human.
Yep.
One is like that whole human thing of trying to force things, whether it's mentally or physically, whether you're actually taking an action or whether you're just stewing over it and forcing it and trying to will it to happen.
Yep.
And you're actually working in that whole realm of time and space and the limitations of being human and pushing, and as you said, getting the thing coming back. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and it totally backfires.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of give up and somehow it just happens anyway.
Yeah. You had it in the first sentence.
Yeah, it's like you got your human will and then you got your open. You're like,
Your
you
being
give up,
will.
you're just like, yeah. So to me, the whole will thing is I've kind of noticed the same thing. When it's used, it's to me it's associated with force, action, masculine energy. That whole thing of trying to make things happen in the world that can be incredibly frustrating.
Yep.
And then the other thing, I don't quite know how it works. I don't have any control over it, but sometimes it just happens.
Yeah.
Where, yeah,
That's right.
I'm not quite sure.
That's a great reference
I'd like
point.
to know how it works, but I don't.
Well, that's the part.
Most of us spend all our time stewing in that other part, trying to make things happen.
Yep.
And getting frustrated as hell when they don't, and not understanding why they don't happen, and thinking, oh, I've got to be disciplined, I've got to make a plan, I've got to strategize, I've got to get another list out,
Yeah.
blah, 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 and it doesn't work.
That's right. And even if it does work in the story, like it forms, you become a slave to the form.
Yeah.
And you got to keep doing
Yeah.
what you're doing, because most people will do continue to do to not lose.
Yeah.
People will do more to hold on to what they've got than to gain something new. So you will
Yeah.
keep, you basically, even if you achieve it
Yeah.
from the doing or from the motivation, right, then you become a slave to it. It's
Yes.
like you just build your prison.
Yeah, and then you're always kind of like criticizing yourself or censoring yourself or comparing yourself and doing the FOMO thing because you're not having a strong enough will or enough discipline or enough action or enough organisation
Yeah.
or whatever the hell you don't have enough of.
FOMO meaning fear of missing out. Just for those who don't know what FOMO is.
So because your will's not strong enough, a lot of Western motivational seminars, etc., all talk about how to get your will. You know, you're not disciplined enough. You're not this. The Eastern talks about the opposite. The Western is all about you got to do. You're in control. You're going to punch the universe. You're going to do this. You're going to make things happen. You're going to become a millionaire. Blah blah blah.
Yep. Good. Thank you. Yep. Microphone.
It's a question more from my own experience, is that when I try to will something, everything now shuts down.
Everything
I can't
now.
now. I
The
can't.
moment.
I cannot come from that place.
Yeah.
It just shuts down, and I go, okay, fuck it. Sorry, and I've got to wait for that willingness to come.
Yeah.
And it can be days, and I just know that I can't act from that place. And I
Okay.
just wanted to ask about that experience, because it's uncertain, but I stay there. But I can't do anything from that place.
From what place?
Will,
Okay.
when I'm trying to make a plan or...
So I'm just looking for a reference point now, right? So that's a good reference point. So another reference point that we just got there is when you're trying to will something, you're not in the present moment. You're not in the now, all right? And you're trying to will something that is either past or future related or influenced. Yes? Okay. So that's another good point. So obviously, when you are coming from inspiration or when you are willing, you are experiencing yourself in the present moment, in the moment now. Okay, great reference point. Thank you. All right. Now, to pick up from what you just said, you can give the mic back, unless you had something else to say. Thanks. To pick up from what you said is, let's talk about free will. Because this is something that I do reference to and speak about in the WTF experience. Free will. And in the WTF experience, I usually ask people that question. I ask people who here feels or believes that they have free will. And you get a mixture of people. Some people putting their hand up, yep. Some people going, oh, I think we should be, and they put your hand up. Some people don't, and whatever, right? So, and then I define what free will is, okay? And free will is when you're willing something, right, that does not have an influence, that is not being influenced. So it is not being influenced from the past or from the future. It is not being influenced from the story. It does not have a motive. Because if you are willing something that has been influenced or has a motive, whether that's from the past or future, or even from this present moment, right? But this present moment, not this moment now, the present moment that has a past or future reference point. Because sometimes people are looking at something right now and they're going, I don't like this because this could happen in the future. I don't like this because this happened in the past. That's not the present moment. You're seeing the present moment with a reference point of the past or future. That's why in previous months I said the present moment is not the moment now that I'm talking about, because the present moment still has the past and future reference. That's why it is the present moment, because the present moment has a past and future on left or either side of it. That's what makes it the present moment. But the moment now, there's only one moment now. There's only one moment, one energy. in the moment now. Everything that ever happened, everything that ever will happen, everything that is happening in one moment. Now that's the space. One moment, one energy. That's the space. So let's get clear. When someone has their will influenced from what has happened in the past or what may happen in the future, when someone has it influenced, in other words, their will has a motive, then how is that free will? That's not free, that's influenced will. That's will with a motivation. That's will with an agenda. Listen to what I'm actually saying here, because this is very important about what I'm about to talk about. I'm about to ask you another question, which I'll probably wait until after the break. I'm going to ask you another question, but I just gave you the clue. So that's not free will, is it? Because free will means you're willing something that is purely, it's purely not influenced. So in other words, it purely has no motive. So there is you have no reason of why you're doing it. How many times have we talked about this in previous WTFs or previous OMGs? You don't know why you're doing it. I love to do it. I always say that when you find someone who truly loves what they're doing, if you ask them what they love, why they love to do it, they'll go, I just love it. Yes, they may be making money. Yes, they may be traveling and they love to travel. Yes, they might be wearing nice clothes. Yes, they be whatever. But if you go to the pure essence of it, I just love it. Recently, I started flying planes again. When I was 16, I flew solo. My mum used to drive me to the airport. I used to be on my L's. And at 16, I flew a plane by myself before I could even have my license for my car. So I've always had a love for flying. I just love it, okay? But I haven't flown for 16 years. And recently, in the last couple of weeks, I started flying again. I've been flying every weekend. Every Saturday, every Sunday. I'm flying this Thursday. Flying quite a lot at the moment, right? And if you ask me, I ask myself, what is it about flying that I love? Why do I love to get I remember at 16 flying a plane, right? And I always thought I thought to myself, well, I'm going to be a pilot because I love flying. And I remember going for a scholarship once, and I went to do the scholarship, and they were going to, I was trying to qualify for the scholarship, got behind the planes, I was doing all these tests, and then something just clicked inside of me, and I went, I love flying, but I don't want to become a pilot. So I changed my path. I never became a pilot. 16 years later, the feeling's still there. I'm like, I love flying. But there's no reason. It's just, I love it. And really, what you're describing there is you love who you're being when you're flying. You love the sense of connection that you have with yourself when you're doing that. That's when I talk about it's who you're being when you're doing that. You love the sense of connection that you have with yourself. So for some reason, I use flying an aeroplane for me to connect with myself through a hobby called flying, doing something. So I was going there for a reason. What was I talking about before flying? Free will. Free will. So when someone has free will, my point was it's absolutely not influenced, right? So, and I'll give you another reference point of what we've been speaking about. We've been continually speaking about, this is probably the strongest point that we've been covering in the last 12 months or the last 9 months or 10 months of OMG. And this is probably my strongest message that I give to anyone around the world, whether they do the Intuitive Warrior, the WTF experience, the OMG program, the retreats, any programs that people do with me, my new programs that I'm doing next year, every single program that I ever do has one message. you know what that one message is? I wonder if you can get what that message is. If you look at everything that I speak about, they're all associated to one message, to one point. Everything. And I didn't even know that until I'm actually saying it now. I'm like, wow. An intuitive warrior, the WTF experience, the OMG program, the retreats, you know, my facilitation program next year, everything is pointed to one thing.
Do what you love.
Hey, who said that? Do what you love? Yes, but why?
Keep your focus on the truth of who you are.
Yes, everything is about... Okay, I'll just tell you guys, because we're going to play a guessing game, right? Everything that I talk about is about remembering who you are, becoming free, knowing the truth, right? But there's only one way I know that you can do that. It's not to follow some spiritual way or follow what Amir says to do, or you know, follow this method, follow this form, follow this technique. Nah. There's only one thing that you're here to do, for you to realize who you are. And that is to bring who you are out. That's very simple. That is how I've got to this point. I didn't go and read books. Here's another reference point. I was talking about the flying for a sec. I do not read books. I don't even read spiritual books. I think the last book I read was Eckhart Tolle's book, which was The Power of Now and A New Earth, and that was it. And that was like years ago. I don't read books. It doesn't. If there's a book out, like I remember the other day on the plane going to LA, I watched The Great Gatsby, and that was a book in my school syllabus that I was meant to read. I was like, wow, what a great movie. You know, if I knew the book was about that, I would have probably read the book, but I didn't read anything. If I know there's a book and then there's a movie out, I'll go, wait, watch the movie. I don't know. I'm not an inspired reader, right? I'm flying planes now, right? I've got these textbooks and I'm loving reading. I am inspired to read. Can you see what I'm saying? I wasn't even inspired to read about spirituality, but I'm inspired. I am not motivated to read it. Motivated means I need to read it. Say the word. I need to do this to get to this point. I'm starting to fly, as I just mentioned, and like I said, I've got like 30 hours. I've got my student pilot's license, right? So I'm now kind of revision. It's a lot of revision. But I haven't flown for 16 years, so that's a lot of revision work. So as I'm flying, my instructor starts to tell me how much work it's going to be required, how many hours I'm going to probably have to do to get back up to scratch. Plus, I'm flying a new plane. I used to fly Cessnas, now I'm flying a Piper Warrior. So it's a complete different plane. Not that different, but it's different. It's a 4-seater, the other one was a 2-seater. Bigger, stronger engine and all that kind of stuff. So it's a new plane, and I haven't flown for 16 years, right? So my instructor's telling me how long it's going to take me to fly this, or to get back onto flying it on my own and taking passengers. And I just said to him, you know what, one thing I want you to understand about me is that I don't mind how long it takes. I'm not in a rush. The word I use, I'm very patient, right? Now, if you know me, like in my everyday life, I'm not really patient, right? Okay, but it's someone who I've become, right? But here's why I'm patient. This is why I'm telling my instructor, I'm really patient. I'm not looking to fast track this, right? Because motivation is about getting somewhere. You see? I love flying. This is what I'm telling the instructor. I didn't say it this way, right? I love flying. Whether I'm flying with you sitting next to me, whether I'm flying by myself, or flying with Sally, or my mum, or one of my friends, one of you guys, it doesn't matter. I'm flying. So what I told him is, it's not about, I don't have a motivation to get my license, although I know that's what's going to happen. But every hour I'm spending in training, I love it. I love reading books. Now, if you know me, I don't, like I just mentioned. You see, because I'm not motivated to fly, I'm inspired to fly. So that means the moment I'm flying, the moment I'm reading about it, I'm already there. Can you see the difference between motivation and inspiration? Just another reference point. Back to what I was talking about. Just had to give you that reference point. What was I talking about? Free love? That's right, I'm talking about free willy, right? Because if you look at, and this is where the point I was trying to get to, right? If you look at the references of everything that I've said is about bringing the feeling out. It's all about, yes, it's all about waking up to knowing the truth of who you are. But there's only one way you're going to do that, by bringing who you are out. That's it. Now you can look at meditation, this technique, that whatever, that's fine. Okay? If you feel motivated. If you feel inspired to do that, then do it. But if you're doing that out of motivation, so I can get to be, what's the destination? Enlightened, free. You got to do what you feel moved to do, what you feel inspired to do, then you will feel free now, not when you're down the path, down the future. So what I'm trying to give you here is another reference point. Motivation is always for the future. Isn't it? Motive is always for the future. So if you're doing it out of motivation, you know what experience you're going to have from it. So back to this point, and then we can take a break. The point that I'm making here is that every work that I do is about bringing the feeling out. Bringing the feeling out is what's called willing. So what we are here to do is to have free will. We are here. When you're living infinitely, you have free will. You are living with free will. In other words, you are freeing willy. So all I'm teaching people to do is to free your willy. That's it. You are here to free willy. Who's interested in freeing willy? Awesome. All the guys and the girls. All right. Well, when we get back from the break, we're going to continue talking about freeing willy. Okay? But we haven't finished with this word willing and will. Because when I come back from the break, I want you to tell me what it actually feels like. Because we've just given you reference, description. I've given you as many references as I can. You guys have contributed to the references, and some of your references have been really profound. Okay? So then I want you to now feel what it feels like when you are willing versus when you're trying to will something. What does it feel like? Okay? So now we can get to the sensations of it. Microphone?
Yeah, I just thought
Microphone. Thanks.
Yeah, you were talking about doing things for the pure enjoyment.
Yeah.
And then before you were talking about free will being pure will.
Very good
That
reference.
was pretty good.
Pure enjoyment
Pure will.
and
Pure
being willing
will.
is pure will.
Yeah.
Exactly. Pure enjoyment means there's no motivation. It's not like I will get my enjoyment when I have that outcome, when I have that result. That's all motivation. And unfortunately, that is how most people know what to do. They know how to do things by or via motivation. When it comes to inspiration, they lose themselves. But everyone has experienced a moment of inspiration. Everyone. Somewhere in your life. And you just don't even know how you did it. You don't even know why you did it. And that's a clue to my question that I'm leaving with you to ponder on. All right? I want you to ponder on this question, because if you have the realization, it's going to be far greater than me sharing the realization with you. So ponder the question, what does it feel like? See if you can ponder on it. What does it feel like when you are willing versus when you are trying to will something? What is the feeling? What is the sensations? Because this is where you get the direct experience, when you can grasp the sensations. So when you come back, I want you guys to, and I can tell where you guys are by where the answer's coming from. Microphone, please.
The is coming to me is a very strong sense of being in the present. Inspiration comes here and now.
I didn't answer. Hang on. Sorry. Don't answer it yet. I want you to hold on to it. I want you to ponder for yourself. Okay? I want you to bring it back after lunch. So what you've got is good. Please continue, but ponder on that for yourself. You don't need to speak it. I just want you to ponder on it, and just keep pondering on it. And then when we come back, then we're going to open up and talk about. But what does it feel like, right? And there's one point I'm aiming to be at. I want you to get to a point where you know what it is when it's free will. Microphone.
Can I just ask, isn't it just the difference that when you're willing something, you're coming from your ego? And when you're
trying to will
something,
it's coming from
it's
ego.
your ego basically operating.
Yeah.
And when you're willing, you're just not in your ego.
Absolutely. Look, a lot of the things that I keep talking about is very much the same, because the truth is very simple, but it's about having as many different forms of what I'm saying. Like last month, we spoke about meaning and purpose. Yes, right? But putting meaning to something is basically the same as putting judgment into something. You weren't here last month. Oh, you were here last month. So your realization of judgments would have been far more deeper after last month. But we talked about the same thing. Judgment, you just drop completely to a different space. So don't go to what you know now. Keep pushing yourself to go deeper. Well, that's just the ego. Yes, we know that. Okay, but we want to go deeper now. Just keep going deeper. There's a deeper realization I want you to have. Not just, well, when you're trying to will something, that's the ego. Yeah, okay. But you get what I'm saying. When I give you I just gave you the reference of last month. I want you to have another reference. I keep talking about different references every month, and you just keep dropping deeper every single month. Like right now, we just talked about motivation and inspiration. Well, you could say, well, isn't the motivation just ego? Yes, but let's talk about it and get you to drop deeper. Let's use that word motivation, and let's use the word inspiration and drop deeper. Just saying it's ego I want you to transcend the ego, not just go, well, that's the ego. Because the moment you say that's the ego, you just define the ego. Guess who just is defining the ego? The ego. But when you're having a realization, it's not defining it. It's just like, you just drop. What is it? How do you know it's willing? How do you know when you're trying to will? I want you to ponder on it.